I'm Fred Kulik at Caltech. The head of the space program had direct connection to Stalin and later Khrushchev.
In their quest to acquire UFO technology to beat the Americans in the space race, it has been reported that top Soviet military officials ordered MiG pilots to shoot down UFOs as far back as World War II, a time just before the Russian Roswell crash of 1948.
So that gives you a two-pronged concern about UFOs. One, you want the new technology to top the other guy's flying technology. And two, we need to be on the alert for new stuff from them. So either way, you want your guys to shoot them down.
As the word spread that UFO wreckage from Tunguska and the 1948 incident were being studied at Zitkur, Russia's Cold War enemies were becoming more and more intrigued by what might be going on above and below the top-secret military base.
The CIA had agents in the Soviet Union back in 1950s who had reported on UFOs, and the CIA was very much interested in what was happening in the Soviet Union.
Coming up, shocking, never-before-seen U-2 reconnaissance photos of Kapustin Yar. And later, an underground tour of Zitkur, revealing for the first time ever the base within the base at the center of Russia's Roswell. In the early stages of the Cold War, the Soviet military test site of Kapustin Yar became a hotbed of secret activity. Activity that involved advanced weapon, missile, and rocket tests.
So after World War II and the development of the atomic bomb, they were not able to build small atomic weapons. So they had to build big rockets to carry them. Unlike the U.S., we still had fairly sizable rockets, but we could miniaturize things to a certain extent, much better than they could. So from the very beginning, they envisioned large rockets, and that really gave them a start on the space program as well.
The Russians had one of the scariest pieces of paper I've seen at one of the 20 archives I've been to, said that the Russians have made more progress in the past 18 months in the development of nuclear weapons and methods for delivering them than had been anticipated for 5 years. That was in 1951.
By the early 1950s, rumors of UFO activity and experiments at Kapustin Yar had indeed leaked beyond Soviet borders. Alarming news that some say may have prompted the U.S. to find out once and for all if the Soviets had gotten their hands on UFO technology.
Kapustin Yar and Zitkur were at the top of our military watch in the same way that Area 51 and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base on Los Alamos were at the top of their military watch.
Tim Brown is a senior analyst at globalsecurity.org. His specialty? Interpretation of top-secret satellite and spy imagery for both private and governmental agencies.
Kapustin Yar was in the top 10% of facilities that the U.S. intelligence was monitoring in Russia, and that's evidenced by just the sheer volume of declassified documents that are available that show that there was a consistent, ongoing interest in what was going on at that facility.
Not long after the United States had developed its most sophisticated spying machine to date, the U-2 spy plane, the first mission was to, where else? Kapustin Yar.
This is probably the first time anyone outside of the CIA or the intelligence community has looked at this, the U-2 imagery of Kapustin Yar.
These never-before-seen U-2 reconnaissance photos provide a detailed look into this covert military base.
Looking at all the imagery that we put together for this project, one of the things you notice is different activity at the different test sites at different times. The Russians not only tested missiles here, they also trained their missile troops there. So there's missile drills and there's test preparations and test launches going on at this facility all the time.
According to a December 1st, 1960 joint Army, Navy, and CIA intelligence brief, Kapustin Yar is a 1,400 square mile military test complex described as a place of intense interest to the intelligence community. It contained at the time at least 4 ballistic launch complexes, 14 launch pads, a precision tracking radar facility, 3 3,500-foot runways, and numerous strange and unidentified areas. But what U-2 reconnaissance couldn't reveal can now be seen for the very first time in this exclusive underground tour of what could be the nerve center of all Soviet UFO activity, Zitkur. Based on reports and drawings from Russian UFO expert Anton Anfilov, seen in the West for the first time, this rendering is what might possibly be the first glimpse ever of this secret cryptic facility a quarter-mile below Kapustin Yar.
Let's say that you get a chance to go down there to the most secret Russian UFO laboratory. It's not glorious, high-tech, and brightly lit. It's dank, it's dark, and it's dingy. It's Russian. It's extremely compartmentalized. It's like an underground shopping mall, except inside the mall are all these rooms where there's exotic technology being taken apart and put back together. In this hub, they're doing autopsies on alien bodies. In that hub, they're reconstructing an engine. Then you've got these fantastic Rube Goldberg machines. What they are machines to test various components, and then finally you come upon these huge underground hangars. And what you're struck by is that there are no airplanes in the hangars. There are these long, cigar-shaped, cylinder-shaped craft in various stages of disrepair because they've crashed. And they're going to try and reverse engineer these. That's what you'd see at this base.
Is this the secret location where the wreckage from the 1948 Russian Roswell crash was taken, along with fragments from the Tunguska UFO?
I cannot deny rumors of the so-called captured UFOs. The Soviets tried to recover lost fragments of their secret tests, and it would be convenient to them to say, yes, UFOs is something that we captured, a UFO is in our hands, but why would they keep the secrecy on the subject of UFOs so tight?
And did this heavily guarded experimental facility specialize in reverse engineering designed to destroy the United States?
If Kapustin Yar is where you're doing your advanced development work, rocketry, aircraft, weaponry, laser weapons, all this kind of stuff, where you need high security and a good setting for your scientists and major computer facilities, then you'd expect that that's where they'd be doing their UFO, advanced UFO research, not UFOs 101, UFOs 404. It's just natural to do that. And of course you'd have underground bases. You'd have protection against intruding aircraft. You'd be looking out for the U-2s.
Another mysterious aspect of Kapustin Yar are the many strange patterns on the ground. Did Stalin and Korolev strategically arrange these patterns to attract UFOs to the base? Some researchers believe the Russians may have borrowed this idea from ancient civilizations, whose pyramids are said to have been constructed in geometric shapes and patterns designed to attract inhabitants from other worlds.
Looking at Kapustin Yar from there, there's a lot of facilities, markings, patterns that might, to the untrained eye, look like they're from another planet or not of this Earth. They might look like something that you'd see in South America with the Mayan cultures or maybe crop circles.
Between the reported UFO crashes and the ultra-top-secret research, how did the Soviets flaunt their advances at Kapustin Yar?
Now there was a new date for Russian youngsters to remember. October 4, 1957, when Sputnik, the first Earth satellite, was launched.
October 4th, 1957. The Soviet Union's space program successfully launches the world's first artificial satellite into orbit.
In the history of the Earth, no other event had captured the imagination of so many people.